Welcome to Charter Chess Club YouTube channel, and in today's video we're going to go over the fourth and final round of the Game 50 Open played on August 10th, 2024 at the Marshall Chess Club. Here we go. Alright, so the game started out with an English as normal. We played pawn to c4, they played d6, we played knight c3, they play e5, we played pawn to e4, I probably played g3 today, but pawn to e4, and now pawn to f5, and so we kind of go back to this Dutch. And normally I would try to play like a Queen's Gambit, like a pawn e3 and d4, but the problem is my pawn's already on e4, so instead we're just going to go into a botfinic structure, playing g3, and we get some pretty normal stuff here. Castle kingside, bishop to e6, and now kind of the first minor mistake in the game, just an inaccuracy, but if we want to learn a lot about this opening, f4 is very common, right, when we have these pawns like this on the E and F files. And we're going to trade, and both of us are going to get our bishop out. However, this is not the right move for a few reasons. One, it's not completely locked up. So pawn c6 was played, which is a great move because it stops the bishop. And maybe we're used to like pawn c5, for example, right? So pawn c5 keeps it very close, or even knight c6, right? Meaning the pawn is on c7 and the queen can't get out, right? But because it's very open, this queen gets this nice diagonal to attack the king, which we'll see later. And more importantly, we got to figure out, what can I do in this kind of structure? Well, one good move is e takes on f5. The reason to play e takes on f5 in this type of position is because this light squared bishop has a lot of scope, and we've already done a great job attacking the light squares in this game. So playing e takes f5 would force this bishop to move again. And then after that, we could play pawn h3. Again, this is a move I start playing a lot in the English and getting a lot of great wins with it. h3 just really stops a lot of Black's attacking ideas. If they play like queen to d7, trying to go after his pawn, you could safely play king to h2, and that's going to guard everything. And it's also going to help you swing your rook over here. So if you want to attack and play like g4, you're going to move your rook here anyways. So for a number of reasons, h3 is a great move. It stops things. It also prepares us to get some sort of attack going. And then we can play g4, and now the knight can go here. We get control of the f5 square, and we continue to push up the board. And again, our bishop is just a monster. So e takes f5 was kind of the way to go in this game. And instead, f4 is played. And now the queen comes to b6, checks the king, gets control of these dark squares, and puts some pressure on that b2 pawn. And there's a very fun move that could have been played. And you can try to pause the video and try to find it, but it's a very wacky move. And the brilliant move to play here, instead of just running with the king, is to instead play pawn to c5. So congrats if you found pawn to c5, because you're going to sacrifice a pawn, and then you're going to follow it up by giving up another pawn. You're going to play pawn to d4. And the idea of this is that even though this position looks exactly the same as before, it gives us this opportunity to attack the queen for one move. And this looks like a kind of flimsy position. It looks like, oh, there's going to be this discovered attack, but we are attacking the queen, and nothing can attack the knight because the bishop is on e6 and not on like d7. And if I look at all the dark squares on this diagonal, white actually controls them now, right? So we're kicking the queen away. The queen has to run away. We're simply going to recapture, and suddenly we get a nice little tempo here. We're attacking a lot of the center. We're forcing them to move their pieces back that they are already developed. And again, this knight is surprisingly safe on a4. So this was kind of a fun way to get back into the game. Of course, I did not find it. So c5, crazy move. I'm just playing king to h1. They go, oh, maybe we can get a fork. Maybe get like a smothered mate here. Of course, we're not going to let that happen. Queen to e1. Then we trade. We kick the queen away. Queen is attacking this pawn. But there's so many things to grab. And this is where the game gets very complicated. There's so many things to grab. We don't think about it too much. We just go on instincts. Playing a little too fast in this game for both sides. We go, okay, f takes e5. They go f takes e4. Of course, just capture, right? Nothing crazy. Rook takes, bishop takes, e takes d6, and now e takes d3. And we both have passed pawns on the same file. And the game is getting more and more open, and black has two bishops. So bishops are great in open games, right? So they got the bishop pair. It looks like black should be winning, unless, because I moved first, maybe I can find the creative way to use this passed d pawn before they use their passed d pawn. And we're going to look into that in a minute. But right here, if we rewind a little bit, instead of capture, what would have made more sense and kind of gone with our theme is, what if we just take the time and play knight takes? And what that's going to do is going to keep my pawns where they are. And again, this bishop is very, very good, right? And it finds a great outpost for knight. So even if like they play pawn takes on e5, we still have a great outpost for this knight. Another knight can hop over here to support that. So that probably would have made more sense instead of just capture, right? Kind of playing on instinct, just taking the time being like, what's the best way to activate my pieces, get them to key squares. But this position is fascinating. And white has one really good way to keep the pressure in this position. And so we start with knight to f4, of course, trying to defend our knight, attacking this bishop. And now this really puts the pressure on because, again, black has the bishop pair, they got the pass pawn, and they're now a pawn up in material. So white is winning, but they have to find a crazy line. Of course, we want to use this d pawn, but it's not very clear how. I mean, look, the bishop is attacking. The knight is stopping that square. The queen's stopping that square, and the rook is going to be able to go to d8 as soon as the knight moves, no matter where it moves. So how do you stop all of this? Well, I couldn't figure it out. I played b3. Let's just kick the bishop. Let's continue playing chess. The best move, queen to e8. This is a brilliant find. Because all those things that we talked about how black can stop that pawn from advancing, they're all gone now. The bishop is pinned to the king. The knight is pinned to the rook. So all three of those pieces are out of the equation. And yes, the queen is defending, but my queen's defending too, so I'll be able to promote. This bishop can't get back in time because it's the knight. And so there's a number of ways that this can go. Let's find like one of the most attacking ways. Queen takes on b2, they get another pawn, and now they're getting this fork on the knight and rook. But the rook has a great spot to go. The rook has to go to f1 to threaten back rank checkmate. If they capture, now you have to find yet again another very fun move. Bishop to d5. Bishop to d5 gets check. Obviously, the king can't run away because we'll get checkmate. So bishop takes, knight takes, and the idea is that the knight is going to win a tempo on this queen. Believe it or not, there are no checks on the white king here. And really anything that we play is just over in this position. So, for example, if they play like knight to d7, which actually stops a checkmate with both the rook and the knight, this queen just has to find the little in-between move, queen f7 check, king goes away, we take the queen, stop the pawn. We're now threatening to take the knight. The rook goes here. That's nothing. We just still take the knight. Because if they take our rook, we have checkmate. So that's just one of the fun lines that could happen. But again, it all starts from finding this queen e8 move, which is going to stop everything. And it looks like it's kind of putting it in danger with this rook coming in later. But there's just no way to get the rook out. And there's just really no positive moves that I can play. So like we play rook here, queen here, and they try to bring the bishop back. Well, we could just push the pawn, but also bring the queen over here, continue to support the pawn. There's just nothing creative that black can play that's going to solve these problems. So queen e8 needed to be played. We played b3, bishop goes back. We get the pass pawn, they get our pass pawn. Now black is a pawn up. They got the bishop pair. It's not looking so good. So the game continues. We play bishop over here. I believe the idea of this was simply, what if I attack this square so the knight can't go there, so the knight develops to the only other square it can. And this looked pretty much like it was going to be a loss. And we're just wrapping up this game. They attack the knight. Knight attacks the queen. Knight attacks the bishop. Black should win this game. Rook defends the knight, gets out of the pin. But suddenly, bishop takes c4. This is a huge blunder. It just seems like black's saying, well, what if I just start trading off material because I'm up material, right? Like bishop takes, right? Like that's all we're going for. But when you take with this bishop, this gets a fork. The knight cannot go back because if the knight goes back, the bishop's there to grab it. So we simply win two pieces and check. Goes back, knight goes over here attacking the queen. And we're just trying to wrap up this game. We win a pawn. Pin the bishop to the queen. Is the rook going to come in? Nope, they moved the pawn. We just take the pawn because the pin's still there. And at this point, my opponent resigned. Again, this game did not last very long when it came to time control. We were both very tired. And we just wanted to kind of play the game and get out of there. It's been a while since I played a 4-round tournament at this point. But I still think there were some very interesting things in the opening, even if we didn't find it for both sides, really. I think that queen e8 move is like wild. But more importantly, I think right from the very beginning, when we get into these positions, where we have, not a completely closed center with pawn to c5 or with no knight c6, I think it's very important to kind of treat this more like an open game. And, just go back to like the basics, like we were playing an Italian or a Scotch or something. Just how can I make that bishop very active, right? How can I put my knights on key squares, right? How can I use those outposts? Let's make sure to castle quickly, get this bishop involved. Just those little ideas are something we could use in any game. So trying to figure out if it's closed, if it's open. If you're a player that likes to play like an open Sicilian, right? You're still going to have to play those close games when they play like pawn to d3, right? So you got to be able to play both ways and recognize what you have on the